we go now, Hour 3 radio program on a Wednesday afternoon. Nice to have with us to talk about the world of sports here on a great SiriusXM 82. Yours truly, Christopher Russo, Eddie Erickson, Colin Schmeling. And away we go. Kevin Lockery, a little NBA a little later on. NBA tonight, do a little potpourri here, go around the horn for you. Celtics will host 76ers. That is Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinal. You know, this is an important game for Boston, not necessarily so much to win this series because they're not losing 4 in a row. They're going to win a series. It's an important game for Boston because that gives them decent rest period, and they've had some injuries with Marcus Brown and Marcus Smart and Brown's hamstring, that it gives them a little rest before they start Game 1. Remember, if they lose tonight, they have to play Game 6 Friday in Philadelphia, and if they won that game Friday in Philly, they'd have to start that next series 3:30 Sunday afternoon, courtesy of television on ABC, which only give them 36 hours off. So, if you win the night, you get 3 or 4 extra days off. And I think Boston, who's played a long series against Milwaukee, 7 games, I think Boston could use that with, again, a couple of people who've been a little banged up, a lot of guys heavy minutes. So we will have to see of how they handle that. Cleveland obviously has plenty of time off. I don't worry about rust for the Cavs. They've been down this path a million times, and LeBron, they'll take his cues. So I'm not so much worried about that from Cleveland's perspective. They have, essentially 6 to 7, maybe even 8 days off. But I do concern myself a little bit with Boston. So because of that reason, it is an important game for the Celtics tonight. Not so much for the series, but for the rest scenario for the following round against the, and you know what it is. I mean, they've known this throughout the postseason, what the schedule is. ABC and ESPN are going to rule the roost on these weekend games, and they have to have a game there Sunday at 3:30. And it's either going to be Game 7 of Philadelphia-Boston, or they're going to play Game 1 of the conference final in the East. Simple as that. There's a game. I don't care if they get, there's a power outage in Philadelphia, and they got to play at 9 a.m. on Sunday. They're going to make the Celtics win that game and come back and play Game 1 3 hours later. That's just the way they're going to do it, because TV rules the roost. So because of all those permutations, if I'm the Celtics, win the night and move on. And I think tonight will be a close game. I think Philadelphia gained a little confidence. They gained probably a little equilibrium, with their win the other day, which, wasn't wire to wire, but it was relatively comfortable for a postseason scenario. They didn't have to work that hard in the last 3 minutes. They had to lead it to half. They were up by, double digits, 18 in the second half, and they held on and won a game by about 10, whatever the final was. And the 2 previous games in this series were pretty close. I mean, obviously, Philadelphia had a 22-point lead in Game 2, and the Sixers probably should not have lost Game 3. So this will put them, I think, give them a little confidence tonight. I mean, they played pretty well in Boston in Game 2. I don't think they're going to win, but I do think in the fourth quarter, this game will be tight. So we'll keep an eye on Boston-Philly tonight. That's the only game of note in the winter sports. No hockey tonight. It's the Celtics and the 76ers. And a little note to Brett Brown, when the young lady comes to you, and I think it's probably going to be Allie DeForce tonight because it's a TNT game. When the young lady comes to you at the end of the first quarter with a question or two, you're not Craig Popovich. Answer it. Okay? Answer it. Don't give her one-word answers thinking you're a wise guy. Answer the questions. Look her in the eye. If everybody in the league can do it, you can do it too. It's a contractual obligation for the coaches to talk to the sideline reporter, home team after the third quarter, visiting team after the first quarter. Answer the questions. So, I don't give her the one-word answers. They really bother me the other day. Now, poor girl was sitting there asking her long-winded questions, and they need to be shortened. Answer the question. All right, you're not Popovich, please. All right, that's the first thing today. Second thing today is obviously in the West, we sit now for 6 days, Houston and Golden State. Houston was half asleep last night. Chris Paul, who had never played or has never played a game in a conference final, finally at this late stage of his career, he gets a chance to do that now. He had a huge second half. He had a big game. I think he had 39, it may have been 41, but he had a big game in the game. Paul last night scored 41. He was 13 of 22. He had 10 assists. Harden was only 18 points, and he shot 7 for 18, or 7 for 22 from the floor. Good performance by Paul. Very big fourth quarter by the Rockets, who trailed by 3 after 3. They did not want to go back to back to Utah under any circumstances, and Paul bailed them out. So it's a good performance by Paul. But now they step into the deep end of the pool here against against the Warriors, who last night coasted against Portland. They were up 20 going into the fourth quarter. Portland, New Orleans, they coasted against them. So now we see, in fact, deep end of the pool for the Rockets. We see what they have themselves, what they have in them when they get ready for Game 1 of that series, which will be a Monday night Game 1. Remember, TNT has the West, ESPN has the East. So Breen, Van Gundy, and Mark Jackson, Cavs against most likely Celtics. Marv, Reggie Miller, and Chris Webber will sit in the West for the Golden State-Houston series, which will begin Monday night in Houston. As I've said all day, I'll say it again. I don't expect Houston to win, and I'm not going to destroy them if they don't, but I'm going to get on Houston if they don't make Golden State sweat. You got home court. You won 65 games. You think you have the MVP, D'Antoni's system and all this nonsense. Make Golden State sweat. You don't have to win. I don't even need necessarily a Game 7. But make Golden State go into a ball game knowing they got to win the game. Whether it's Game 5, 2-2, whether they somehow even maybe lose Game 3 and they're down 2-1 going into Game 4. Whatever the scenario you want to paint, don't go down 3-1, win Game 5, and go back to Golden State for Game 6. That doesn't do anything for me. Because that's a formality. Go out there and put yourself in a situation where the Warriors got to pay attention for 48 minutes and win the game. Let me see them do that. Make them win a must game. Golden State has not had a win a must game in a long time. They did not have to win a must game last year. They lost one postseason game. The year before that, they had a couple of must games they had to win. They didn't win them. And obviously, specifically Game 7, they had a must game. They couldn't win it. Up 3-1. Put them in a situation where Durant and Curry and Thompson and Green go to the gym saying, guys, we're going to win this game. No fooling around tonight. We lose this game, we ain't lose the series. Put them in that spot. And let me see them do that. If they do that, I'll be impressed. Other than that, I don't want to hear from Houston. That's number 2. Number 3 now is the hockey. One game tomorrow night. We'll do a spot on it for you. Winnipeg at Nashville. 3 games apiece. Nothing in the NHL East tonight. Washington and Tampa, they do it the right way. They don't have as many TV requirements, but they do it the right way. The Washington-Tampa series will begin on Friday night. I thought it was going to begin on the weekend. It begins Friday night, and the Winnipeg series begins on Saturday night or Nashville against Vegas. So they play every other day throughout the next conference final. So they will play every day for whatever it might be, as long as it goes. Washington, will have perfect rest, 3 days. Tampa will have the 4 days. That will begin in Tampa on Friday night, and the Vegas will be on the road either in Nashville or Winnipeg on Saturday night. So, and most games are 8, 9 o'clock. I think there might be one 9 o'clock game. But even Vegas will play earlier starting time games on the West Coast. I can give you the exact if you wish. Vegas will play 9 o'clock on the 16th, which is next Wednesday, and 8 o'clock next Friday. So Vegas will play 2 early games for Vegas time next week. And Game 6 in Vegas, if they go that far, would also be at 9 o'clock. The games in Winnipeg or Nashville will begin at 7 local time East. 7, 8, 3, and 8. That's pretty good. Winnipeg and Tampa and Washington, all games begin at 8. Except maybe May 19th. That is after the Preakness at 7:15. That's Game 5. So they will have to sit there to 7:45 before they play Game 5. NBC will do what they did last time and obviously sit there and be in a situation where they will, have that Preakness go to 7:20 and like the Derby this past weekend, then Washington and Tampa will be waiting for to play that Game 5 in that spot. All right, we'll come back and do the baseball in a sec. We continue here on Mad Dog on.